Bible verse: commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will bring it to pass. Psalm 37:5. Beloved Creator, who formed us with so much care and love, today we approach you with an open heart, seeking your presence. We know that life is not always easy, that the days can bring worries, tiredness, and uncertainty. But today, we want to learn to surrender completely to you, trusting that your care is perfect and that your love never fails. Lord, teach us to live one day at a time. Often we are so worried about tomorrow that we forget to live today. But your word tells us not to worry about tomorrow, for each day has its own trouble. When we surrender to you, we learn to live in the present, savoring each moment as a gift from your hands. Lord, how many times do we lose ourselves in worries about the future, trying to control what has not even happened yet? We forget that you are already there, tomorrow, preparing the way for us. Your word reminds us that we do not know what the next day will bring, but we know that you are the same yesterday, today, and forever. When we surrender to you, we find the peace of knowing that the future is in your hands and that your plan for us is always good, perfect, and pleasing. Teach us, O God, to trust in your care, to rest in your provision, and to live each day with the assurance that you are in control. Dear Father, there are times when the weight of responsibilities seems overwhelming. Work, family, bills, commitments, it all seems to demand more than we can handle. But today, we remember that you are our support, our strength when we are weak. When we surrender to you, we find the lightness of knowing that we do not have to carry it all alone. You invite us to cast all our anxieties upon you because you care for us. Teach us to prioritize what really matters, to seek first your kingdom and your righteousness, knowing that all other things will be added to us. Lord, there are also those who are facing important decisions, crossroads that seem to define the course of their lives. Doubt and fear can paralyze us, but your word tells us that if we acknowledge you in all our ways, you will straighten our paths. When we surrender to you, we find the wisdom that comes from above, the direction that guides us safely. Teach us to listen to your voice, to discern your will, and to walk with faith, knowing that you are our beacon in the darkest hours. Lord, how many times do we try to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders as if it were up to us alone to solve everything? We forget that you are the God who sustains the universe, who cares for the birds of the sky and clothes the lilies of the field with beauty. Why then do we doubt that you will also care for us? Today, we resolve to let go of anxiety and surrender every detail of our lives to you. Lord, there are times when we feel overwhelmed by the expectations of others and the demands that life places on us. We want to be good parents, children, friends, and professionals, but we often forget that we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be faithful to you. When we surrender to you, we understand that our sufficiency comes from your love and grace, not from our own strength. Teach us to live lightly, to embrace our humanity, and to trust that even when we fail, you are there to lift us up and guide us back to the right path. Dear God, there are also those who are facing inner storms, fears that paralyze them, doubts that torment them, and thoughts that cause them to question their own worth. But today, we remember that you are the God who calms the storms, who brings peace to the mind and healing to the heart. When we surrender to you, we find the security of knowing that we are deeply loved, that we were created for a purpose, and that nothing can separate us from your love. Free us, Lord, from everything that binds us and prevents us from living the fullness that you have prepared for us. O God of all goodness, there are still those who are struggling with loneliness, feeling forgotten or invisible. But today, we remember that you see us, that you know every detail of our lives, and that you never abandon us. When we surrender to you, we find the certainty that we are part of a family, your family, and that we are never alone. Teach us to see your presence in the small gestures of love around us, to value each connection, and to be instruments of your care for those who also need to feel loved. Dear God, there are times when we feel lost, as if we were walking on a dark road, not knowing where to go. But you are the light that illuminates our path. When we surrender to you, the darkness dissipates, and your direction becomes clear. Teach us to trust even when we don't understand, to believe even when we don't see. For your word says that your thoughts toward us are of peace and not of evil, to give us a future and hope. Lord, there are times when we feel like small boats adrift in a rough sea, without direction and without the strength to row against the waves. But today, we remember that you are the wind that propels our sails and the star that guides us to safe harbor. When we surrender to you, we find the security of knowing that even in the midst of the storm, you are in control and that no wave is too big for your hands. Teach us to rest in your promise that when we pass through the waters, they will not overwhelm us, and when we walk through the fire, we will not be burned. Dear Father, there are also those who are facing challenges that seem insurmountable, mountains of hardship that block the way and valleys of discouragement that seem endless. But today, we remember that you are the God who moves mountains, who turns deserts into gardens, and who brings forth life where there seems to be only death. When we surrender to you, we find the courage to move forward, knowing that no obstacle is too great for your power. Grant us, Lord, the perseverance to continue, the faith to believe in the impossible, and the hope that with you, every struggle has a purpose. O God of all consolation, there are still those who are carrying deep wounds, battle scars that have left marks on their souls. But today, we remember that you are the physician who heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. When we surrender to you, we find the relief that only your touch can bring, the restoration that only your love can offer. Teach us to release forgiveness, to let go of what has hurt us, and to trust that you are working within us, transforming each pain into a story of redemption. Lord, there are struggles that seem too big for us: financial problems, worn-out relationships, fragile health, postponed dreams. Sometimes we feel like we don't have the strength to carry on, but it is precisely in these moments that your power manifests itself most intensely. When we surrender, we recognize that we cannot, but you can, and it is in this surrender that we find relief, for your burden is light and your yoke is easy. Lord, there are times when we feel as if we are trapped in a maze, unable to find a way out of the problems that surround us. The doors seem closed, the answers seem distant, and weariness tries to overcome us. But today, we remember that you are the God who opens doors that no one can close and who makes paths where there are none. When we surrender to you, we find hope that even when we do not see a solution, you are already working on our behalf. Teach us to trust in your timing, to wait patiently, and to believe that your actions are always perfect. Dear Father, there are also those who are facing the pain of broken relationships, bonds that have worn out over time, or wounds that have not yet healed. But today, we remember that you are the God who restores, reconciles, and heals. When we surrender to you, we find the grace to forgive, the humility to ask for forgiveness, and the wisdom to rebuild what has been damaged. Grant us, Lord, the sensitivity to listen, the patience to understand, and the love to love as you love. As a God of all provision, there are still those who are facing uncertainty about the future, doubts about which path to take, or fear of the unknown. But today, we remember that you are the God who knows the end from the beginning, who has already prepared the way, and who guides us with precision and care. When we surrender to you, we find the peace of knowing that your plans for us are good. that your purpose is greater than our expectations, and that your love accompanies us every step of the way. Teach us to walk by faith, to trust in your direction, and to rest in the certainty that the future is safe in your hands. O God of mercy, there are also those who are carrying around guilt from the past, mistakes that seem impossible to forgive. But today, we remember that your love is greater than any failure. When we surrender to you, we find forgiveness that cleanses our souls and gives us a new beginning. No matter what we have done or failed to do, your forgiveness is available to all who repent from the heart. Lord, there are times when the weight of guilt paralyzes us, as if we were prisoners of our own wrong choices. The past seems to haunt us, and memories whisper to us that we are not worthy of a second chance. But today, we remember that you are the God who breaks the chains of condemnation, who frees us from the prisons of regret, and who calls us to a life of freedom. When we surrender to you, we find the courage to look forward, knowing that your forgiveness not only erases our past, but also empowers us to write a new story, full of purpose and hope. Dear Father, there are also those who are struggling to forgive themselves, even though they know you have already forgiven them. They hold on to their failures, their what-ifs and shoulds, as if they can change what has already happened. But today, we remember that you are the God who turns our mourning into dance, who exchanges our ashes for beauty, and who makes all things work together for our good. When we surrender to you, we find the grace to accept your forgiveness and the strength to move forward, knowing that your love redeems and restores us. O God of infinite compassion, there are still those who are carrying the weight of having hurt others, hurting those they love, or failing to be the version of themselves they want to be. But today, we remember that you are the God who gives us the opportunity to start over, to repair what has been broken, and to be instruments of your reconciliation. When we surrender to you, we find the humility to ask for forgiveness, the courage to make amends, and the wisdom to learn from our mistakes. Teach us, Lord, to live with integrity, to love sincerely, and to walk with the lightness of those who have been freed by your grace. Lord, teach us to live one day at a time. Often, we are so worried about tomorrow that we forget to live today. But your word tells us not to worry about tomorrow, because each day has its own evil. When we surrender to you, we learn to live in the present, savoring each moment as a gift from your hands. Dear Father, there are also those who feel lonely, as if no one understands or loves them. But today, we remember that you are always with us. You never abandon us, never leave us alone. When we surrender to you, we find the sweetest companionship and the truest love. You are the friend who sticks closer than a brother, the refuge in stormy days. Lord, there are dreams that seem far away, plans that have not yet come true. But today, we decide to trust in your timing. We know that you work silently, preparing everything for our good. When we surrender to you, we learn to wait patiently, knowing that your timetable is perfect and that all things work together for the good of those who love you. O God of all comfort, there are also those who are facing losses, mourning that hurts deeply. But today, we remember that you are the God who wipes away our tears and heals our wounds. When we surrender to you, we find comfort that goes beyond human understanding. You give us the certainty that one day all pain will cease, and that there will be a reunion full of joy. Lord, today we surrender to you with everything we are and have. We hand over our fears, our doubts, our weaknesses. We know that when we surrender, your power acts within us, transforming the impossible into the possible, sadness into joy, chaos into peace. Dear God, thank you for accepting us just as we are, but also for not leaving us this way. Thank you for working within us, shaping our character, strengthening our faith, and preparing us for your purposes. When we surrender to you, we discover that true freedom lies in serving you, that true peace lies in knowing you. Lord, fill us with your Spirit so that we may live this day with gratitude and trust. May every step we take be guided by you. May every word we speak be inspired by you. May every decision we make be aligned with your will. We conclude this prayer with a grateful heart, knowing that surrender is not a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. For when we surrender to you, we find the strength we need, the peace we seek, and the love that sustains us. And now, dear friend who followed this prayer, I leave you with a question for reflection. What do you need to surrender to God today? To experience the transforming power of surrender, may the Lord bless you and keep you, today and always. Amen.